Tight mains, get your crayons to build video. This video is going to show you the best true endgame solo builds for Titans in endgame content for Destiny 2, of course. So just to remind people, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. So yesterday we done a video for the Warlock builds, which was rather overwhelmingly positive. A lot of people wanted a Titan video and a Hunter one, but we'll go with Titan next. And a Hunter video will be done at some point when we get round to it, for the builds, that is. So if you didn't see the Warlock video, we picked two builds for each element, right? Solar Void Arc, Stasis, Strand, etc. And we talked about the neutral based stuff, and I'm going to do the same format as I did in that video. I can't show you gameplay of these builds because it's too much gameplay to be done in one video. You will have seen me use some of these builds in previous runs. This is more to get you the grasp of the understanding of the fragments, the aspects, the exotic parents to subclass ratio, and to get the dim links to you. That's what this is more about. The gameplay that I showcase is in my solo runs. It's out there for you to see. And there will be some of that this week as well. So let's talk about Titan neutral based builds, neutral based exotics, because there's quite a few for the Titan. It's in actual fact, I think the Titan's got more neutral based stuff than maybe the Warlock has. It does a better job of it. So we're talking neutral based. Neutral based means an exotic that we equip that works on any element and works really well for endgame stuff. We are judging this as if we were a minus 25 delta. So we are running endgame stuff where we are under leveled or underpowered in day one contest raids, Grandmaster nightfalls, under level content that's minus 15, which is a lot of that coming lately in the game, etc., etc. Right? So it's based on the ads being more powerful than usual. So the neutral based stuff for the Titan, well, the two best neutral based stuff is Synthoceps, being surrounded, buffs damage and weapon handling, right, etc., etc. But it's the damage bonus you get via your melee and super is unquestionable. This is my most used Titan exotic since it came out. Since Destiny 2 came out, Synthoceps has been my most used Titan exotic. It's something I use often for good reason. It's one of the best exotics. Another good neutral based exotic is Strongholds. Right now they've done some funky stuff with it, with the restoration and stuff, but I'm not going to get into the funky stuff that they've done. Just know that it's really good when you're using swords on a Titan with the restoration, etc. So it's really good, like amazing. And I've got a stronghold build coming up actually to show you. So that's neutral based. Precious Scars is neutral based. It's had a buff of recent times. If you match a element to your subclass, or as in primary, you get Cure. This is huge, and it's only gotten better over time. I don't have a Precious Scars build to show you because I only have 10 dim loadouts available, and I didn't have Precious Scars in there. You just need to know that if you want health and you want to use a weapon that matches your element, Precious Scars is one of the best exotics out there for Titans. End of discussion. It's that good. So I am telling you to use it. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't. I'm saying that you should use this for times when you need health like quite frequently, but you don't want to use maybe a mini hammer, maybe you're on a different class like Stasis or Strand or something. You know, you can use it. It's very, very, very good, honestly. I can't understate how good it is. I've told you how good it is, right? Other neutral based stuff. Actium Warwig's good for DPS situations when you've got things like Xenophage on and stuff like that. And Peregrine Greaves. This is neutral based, and this is insane that it basically one-shots champs, right? And then you get your melee back. It's an insane neutral based exotic nowadays. Doesn't get a lot of use because it's quite difficult to use, but once you master it, it's good. It's a very good neutral based subclass. It doesn't work on Stasis, I don't think, as good. No, it's just Solar, Void, and Arc. It's just for Solar, Void, and Arc. So that's your neutral based stuff. Oh, and Heart of Inmost Light. Heart of Inmost Light being insane neutral based. It's just because you can um, sort of stagger your abilities, use melee, then nade, then class ability, and cycle this. Having most like got a nerf ages ago, but it's still within that meta rotation. It's still something that we want to use. Armentarium's nice as well with double grenades, but I feel as though it's fell out of rotation for the most part. And that is all the neutral based stuff that you want to use in endgame content. The rest of it's just hearsay, and you probably wouldn't want to use things like Mask of the Quiet One, um, Mask of the Quiet One. What else? Icefall Mantle. No. A lot of the Crest of Alpha Lupine needs a huge buff. It's like, what? It's been left behind. So that's the neutral base covered. Now to get on to the actual elements. So we're going to start with solar first. Right, so I'm going to offer you two builds per element. Probably the two best builds for each element that I can think of for solo endgame stuff. Again, to remind you, this is based on the fact that we are 25 power under and that we are struggling against enemies. These builds will help you with that. So build number one is Loreley Splendor. So create a sunspot with improved solar restoration when critically wounded or on barricade cast. And it creates a sunspot at your location. So when you get critically wounded, when you're trying to run around in a GM, in a solo GM or whatever it might be, if you get one shot or even in a dungeon, you're going to get health regen automatic, providing that you have your barricade cooldown. This is why you need T10 resilience in PvE, of course, we know this. But this works hand in hand because your barricade stat is tied to that on a Titan, which means you're going to have your barricade up quite a lot. So this is going to proc for you when you need to. And if you don't, you maybe want to manually proc it, then just pop a barricade. Boom, you've got a sunspot on demand. All right. Now, that's really good. It's an amazing fact, actually, because it procs behind cover. This is what's known as a long-range build, not a close-quarter build. Although you can still use it close quarters, right? You can still use it in that manner, right? Because we've got the mini hammer on. So in this case, we're using Burn and Maul, just to give you the differences between Burn and Maul and Hammer of Sol solo-wise. Burn and Maul does more damage single target, but Hammer of Sol is better for Roman targets and ad clear, and it is more mobile than Burn and Maul. Burn and Maul isn't as mobile as Hammer of Sol, so like dungeon content when you're doing solo DPS, Burn and Maul's better. If you're in like a GM, generally speaking, Hammer of Sol's slightly better because you can do better damage at range, and this is more close quarters. So you need to independently make a decision on which super you're using, depending on what content that you're in and what boss you're up against. So this depends. Not one is better than the other. Although Burn and Maul, there's a caveat to it, which I'll go into in a bit. So Burn and Maul, throw and hammer, obviously. Heal and nade to keep a infinite restoration setup going. Soul Invictus, Roaring Flames. So Soul Invictus is a massive aspect. You should always run this. You should never not run this in PvE. It is too strong not to run. This is your basis of your Sunspot build. Roaring Flames adds damage bonus to your solar abilities. You must run this as well. I don't ever want to see you run Consecration. Don't run Consecration. It's not good enough of a pick to choose. More on that in a minute. Fragments. Torches for Radiant. Ashes for Scorch Stacks. Empyrean for the Restoration Chain Killing. Solace to double up on Radiant Restoration. You don't have to use this always. I don't always use it. So, for example, I'm using Polaris Lance. Sometimes I'll stick on Ember of Eruption because this helps weapons that are solar based that have ignitions built into them or scorches built into them. This helps with all sorts of things in the game. So sometimes I might pick Ember of Eruption. The trade-off is you get more solar damage out, but you get less restoration if you don't have Solace up. Solace is a really good one. If you're struggling GMs, put Solace on. This will allow you to survive longer. It's just overall better in my opinion. But say if you're playing maybe a dungeon and survivability isn't as much of a factor, then you run Ember of Eruption. Or Ember of Char for that matter. There's Char as well. It's on there somewhere. Char just spreads out the scorch more. Right, so that's the fragments. That's the Splendor build. Just to note, going forward, right, with the builds, the same thing as the Warlock video. I haven't put resistance mods on, just concussive dampener, because you always want to run that in endgame. You then swap Solar Void Arc Resist, depending on what Nightfall or Raid or whatever that you're doing, or Dungeon. We've got Impact Induction and Heavy Handed. Heavy Handed has been nerfed, but is still super powerful, being able to get orbs. You only get one orb per 10 seconds, but that's still enough. 3 armor charges is a ton of armor charge. So heavy-handed is still something that you want to use despite its nerf. Don't listen to everyone who says about that. You still want to run heavy-handed. Run siphon mods on the helmet. Always run heavy ammo finder in endgame. Always, always, always. You can run hands-on fine if you really, really want to, but heavy ammo finder is a big thing that you want to be using. If you want to know more about like the heavy ammo finder thing, then you need to ask me about it, and I can give you more in-depth information about it. Recuperation and innovation. So we got recoup to health regen, and then when we pick up an orb, we also get grenade energy. This is good to just keep an uptime on a healer nade. For example, say we do get critical wounded, we lose Splendor Sunspot, and we've lost restoration for some reason. We've got a backup healer nade, and it might be around the corner because of innovation. Double bomber. So when we do pop a barricade, I can't mind if double bomber works with Splendor automatically casting its barricade. I think it does. I can't mind. But if we do automatically proc a barricade, then we're going to get double bomber. Proximity ward, just because you get overshields while you do finishes. I'm not doing armor charge builds so much with you. I don't want the video to be focused on armor charges or mods too much. It's more about exotic parents. And obviously Polaris Lance, Sunshot, any solar exotics are really good with the Solar Titan. All right. So I feel as though that's that covered. Let's go to build 2. So build 2 is a variation of the Splendor. So, well, it's not a variation of the Splendor, sorry. It's a variation of the Burnham Maul. So Paragil Gauntlets is going to allow us to turn Burnham Maul into a one-shot style super. This is fantastic for DPS, burst damage against champs, bosses, dungeon bosses, etc. There is a weakness to Paragil Gauntlets though, and the weakness is that sometimes we want a Roman super to outlive enemies. Paragil Gauntlets will not do that. That is the only weakness that it contains, but it's meant to be designed for a burst damage phase to a boss. That's what this is for. So what you can do, for example, in a dungeon, is run Splendor until DPS. When you get to DPS, surge switch onto Paragil Gauntlets to then do a one-shot style Burnham Maul thing. And then you can start doing weapon damage. See, Roman supers, whilst they have that super armor resistance that I talk about, they have that, but they don't have burst damage because you're stuck in an animation. This doesn't allow that. It means that you can start immediately firing your weapons. And now you saw me recently solo one phase Kel Echo with this. That is a good example of that. There was a video posted about that a while back now. Everything's the same, right? Same thing. Don't use Consecration, because Consecration means that you don't have Soul Invictus or you don't have Roaring Flames. Why would you not want these two? Consecration just changes your melee ability. It's awkward to use. I know it's being buffed and I need to have a play with Consecration, but I still know in my heart that if I run a solo GM with Solar Titan, I am not running Consecration. I know that I'm not going to do that. You might be able to pull off some funky stuff with it on a boss because of Revitalize and Blast and stuff like this, but that's unique to this season. I don't feel as though it's that good. I honestly don't. There's going to be some Consecration users, but I would argue the Consecration users are not solo players. For generally speaking, you're probably in a team getting support from a Well Warlock, a Void Tether. You're getting lots of support from other people. When you're solo, you don't have that support. Therefore, you want Soul Invictus, you want Roaring Flames for damage bonus. These two are best in slot, despite Consecration's buff. You can argue down below with the comments about it if you want. It's up to you. Right. So that's that build covered. The same thing goes. All the mods were the exact same. Just it's a DPS style super. So now we come to Void. Right. So Void. So Monte Carlo is something that we can utilize for melee energy. If you pair that on a Void Titan with Second Chance, this allows you to keep spamming debuffs. Look at what this does. Gain a second charge with your shield throw melee. Your shield throw melee now weakens targets and becomes shield pierce and stun and barrier champs. The stunning element of the exotic is poor. I'll be honest. We haven't got it on for that, so don't. I won't want you focusing on that so much. It's more about the weakening effect. The fact that we can get weakening effects so easily with this build makes it really good. Now, this season you can get a debuff via Revitalize and Blast so easy, but once that goes, people are going to start looking for debuffs from other cases. This is like a debuff Titan build. This is not only good solo, but it's good for fireteam gameplay. So this video isn't about fireteam at all, in the slightest. But if you was to run a second chance Void Titan in your fireteam, they would help you out. Although Ursa Furiosa is better than that, though I think. But that's a topic for another video. Focusing on the solo element, the fact that you can just keep getting your debuffs going, right? And you have two of them, so space your debuffs out over a phase. This is really good. So the Void Titan build, we're using Water Dawn Bubble for the damage bonus it presents. One note on Sentinel Shield, it is only good with Symphoceps. Okay, it is only good with Symphoceps in endgame content. Never run Sentinel Shield without Symphoceps unless you're doing some niche application with it. It's just not strong enough. It is strong, however, with the Symphoceps buff. That's all I'll say on it. For everything else, you just really want to use Bubble for your weapons of light. Shield throw, of course, needs to be on. Vortex grenade is generally the most consistent nade out of them all. Void Wall does more damage, and you might want to use it against tanks and stuff like in 0 Hour. But for the most part, you're using Vortex grenade. But I do sometimes swap out to Void Wall. Suppressor grenade is also good for like suppressing Hive Guardians and stuff, but this is also quite niche to me, and I don't use Suppressor grenade all that much, but there's a lot of utility from it. Bastion, offensive bulwark. So the Bastion's a huge thing. Being able to pop down a barricade with T10 Resil, get an overshield, you then get offensive bulwark to proc, which gives you more grenade. It charges so much quicker. Like, it's insane how quick you get it with offensive bulwark. People are sleeping on offensive bulwark and they're using Bastion. You don't need to use Bastion unless you do Symphoceps Sentinel Shield build that I just referred to before. But we're not doing that, so you don't need it because it's Code of the Commander, basically, if you remember that. You don't have to have controlled demolition if you use the fragment Echo of Expulsion. This is a mini version of the detonator build, so this is sufficient. I think it's overkill with the controlled demolition and having more nades and all that stuff. I think it's just a slight better. I actually tested offensive bulwark in a GM a few months ago, and I found that it was far better than running control demolition because I just got more nades. I got more of everything. So, especially with the Bastion build, at least. Other fragments was Echo of Starvation for Devour on a Void Titan. I just mentioned yesterday that the Devour Warlock is stronger than the other two classes, but Devour is still strong on a Titan and a Hunter. We can use Echo of Obscurity for invis for crutch moments in GMs. This is so good, being able to invis kill a champ or something, or in a Battlegrounds GM and then dunk a battery safely on a Void Titan. This is strong. Echo of Legion for the plus 10 resilience, and we get health regen via melee kills, which on Void Titans, let's be fair, you do sometimes do a lot of punching, even in GMs. Especially with Symphoceps, if you are running the Symphoceps setup, then that's really good. We can swap out that for Echo of Instability if we wanted. If we're doing like a volatile rounds build with like Graviton Lance or Le Monarch, we can also do that. These builds aren't set in stone. There are slight variations of all of them. The main thing is not to mess up the core of the build, like the aspects and stuff. Don't mess up the core of the build, and you can slightly change certain fragments in and out. Notice we don't have Echo of Undermining on. The reason for that is because we've got all the debuffs that we could ever want with Second Chance and Monte Carlo. Again, we can swap this out, but I feel as though Second Chance needs Monte Carlo to make it work. That means you're sort of relying on auto rifles being in the seasonal artifact mods. So that is one uh, bad thing about the build, but that's the only bad thing. Notice the stat distribution. So Titans, you focus discipline, recovery, resilience. And like I say, all the same builds. We've got double outreach on this time, though. That is the change. And orbs for melee energy, etc. Double impact induction, because we're doing a lot of melee, so we're going to get great energy back via that as well, etc., etc. Right, so let's go to the next void build. Actually, it's on this one, sorry. So the next void build is Heart of Inmost Light. Now, this is a neutral build, but I've just told you, Void Titans, they don't have a lot going for them. There is Helm of Saint 14, but Helm of Saint 14 basically does what Heart of Inmost Light does. The only thing is it does blind enemies, but it's not as useful as it used to be. Just note that sometimes Helm of Saint 14 is on my radar to use, but it's very niche application now. It's not like it used to be. Heart of Inmost Light is generally better than Saint because of its ability energy that you get. So Heart of Inmost Light got a nerf, like I stated, but it's still super strong, especially with offensive bulwark. So I've got all the same stuff on as I had before. All of it's the same as what I've just stated. You could skip out a shield throw for a shield bash. Shield bash has a lot of utility as well, so sometimes we will do that. Blind and key targets is very important, and I've used it in the past. Plus, you get overshield. Well, you get overshield via both. So yeah, the Harvey Most Light build's really good. Don't take note of my weapons. That's actually just to show you that you can use any weapon with this. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what you're doing and what champs you're up against, doesn't it? It all depends. Everything can be changed. But bolster and detonation, bomber, they stack together like I said in the previous video. This just helps Heart of Inmost Light. It brings it up. It allows it to not be in a nerfed state once you add the mods that I've told you. You can have kickstarts on as well. I'm not saying that you can't. If you want to run grenade kickstart, you can. But it's not the be all and end all either. See, bolster and detonation and bomber work with no armor charges at all. So that's the setup with that. Notice again the stat distribution. You need to be bob on with it. Good discipline, good recovery is also still important because you not always have an overshield. Sometimes you need to run around the map, and having higher recovery stat is still kind of important in D2. So that's the void builds. Having Most Light being really good. It's because you can spam Bastion. Bastion, grenade, melee, repeat. That's just the play loop of it. Alright, so that's that done. So now we come to Arc builds. Now Arc Titan is still good in certain scenarios. Now, let me take you through the stuff. So, Thunder Crash for this setup. Thruster, not a barricade. You want a thruster. Seismic Strike we have on. Seismic Strike's generally the best one. So Thunderclap is not a good melee ability in my opinion. It's too stationary and it can kill you very easily in endgame content. If you just stand too long against a barrier knight, you try and Thunderclap him and he kills you because he clapped you back. Don't. You want to use Seismic Strike because it blinds enemies and it's a good movement tool. It has been nerfed because you can't spam it like we used to for movement, which is a dumb change. They need to buff Seismic Strike back. All of the shoulder charge melee abilities need to be buffed so that we can spam them as movement tools in PvE. I don't know why this isn't the case. But even despite that, it's still good. This helps me stay alive in Lightblade solo GM. Things where you need map rotation, which I've talked about at length in the past, it's just the best option. And blind enemies also is really good. Pulse Grenade is the best arc grenade that you can use nowadays. Storm Grenade is good with Heart of Inmost Light and Touch of Thunder. It's still a good build sometimes, but because of Pulse Grenades and how they work, they get so much ionic traces. It's crazy. You get so much ability regen. Pulse Grenade is the king of arc grenades right now. Aspects are Knockout, Touch of Thunder. Don't worry about Juggernaut. It's just not that good in PvE. I've already tested it. Fragments are as follows. Spark of Resistance to get, obviously, resistance. Ions for the ability energy via Ionic Traces, Pulse Nades, of course, like I just mentioned to you. Magnitude to buff your Pulse Grenade, and Spark of Shock to jolt the targets. Right, we pair that with Curious of the Fallen Star, the king of arc exotics, really, for like DPS and killing champs, etc., etc. I don't need to give you any introduction. The build is the same as what I've been mentioning, like your double bomber, your balls and detonation, your siphons, concussive damage, etc., etc. So it's really good. Let's move on to a more unique build, though. This can work. I'm not trolling you. It can. So there's an exotic called Eternal Warrior that got buffed. It states arc final blows grant an escalating damage bonus with arc weapons. Gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc and gain the highest tier damage bonus to arc weapons when your Fist of Havoc super ends. So it's good and I mean I'd rather use Symphoceps if I'm being honest with Fist of Havoc because it'll buff its damage because Fist of Havoc's damage is it's average or slightly below. Symphoceps will bring it up. However, if you do run this, there's some application to it if you're using arc weapons because you're gonna get that higher buff of weapon surges, the times 4 buff when your super ends, and you get an overshield. I have shown you how to survive in endgame content with Roman supers. I've even used Fist of Havocs in Glassware solo GM, staying alive with it. So I think if I can survive in that, right, then I think it can survive in a lot of pieces of the game. Again, if you want to know about this super armor, Roman super armor that you get, the super resistance, then ask me more about it because I can't go into every caveat about it right now. But there's some use cases in the game solo when a Roman super is better than a one-shot style super. There's some occasions where that is the case. You don't always do solo damage. You don't always do solo burst damage. Sometimes you are just doing chip damage, and that's it. There's a difference. If you want to know more about it, then you just ask me about it. I can tell you more about it. So it's decent. But again, I might have used Symphos with this instead, but it's okay. It's like average or slightly above because of that buff, but it's still a bit niche. But at least I've showed you some Fist of Havoc's build. So let's move on to Strand Titan. So the idea with the Strand Titan is for DPS rotations and stuff is to use Navigator. Obviously, make sure you got Catalyst, and then you can create a tangle point to then infinitely melee a boss. This is being used as the top speedrun class basically in the game right now. It's just broken at the minute. So I'm just showing you the broken build. This is not something that I use uh, all the time with a banner Titan because I don't use Navigator. I ain't really using Navigator, but you can still use this build with Navigator or without. So this is the build as follows for Strand Titan. Blade Fury does a lot of things for you. It can kill barriers and unstoppables with no gun required. It's the best Roman super in the game for champions. Hands down, it's better than everything that we've got right now because of what it can do against champions. You stun them with the heavy attack. This suspends them. So we use Rally Barricade, shackle. This is grapple. Sorry, you want grapple. So for this into the fray, just because of woven mail, yeah, I feel as though that's just the pick. And Banner of War is going to help you stay alive. Banner of War being the most broken aspect in the game right now, even though they adjusted it, it's still fantastically good. Again, for solo GMs staying alive against ads, when you watch your Vendettas and your Assault Grapos doing them Titan Strand speedruns, they're using Banner of War. Of course they are. They're using this sort of type of build. They might have a variation of it, but this is sort of what they would run. So they want to focus on obviously melee energy. This was just before Destiny 2 goes offline. I didn't have time to sort out all my stats, so don't look into that too much. Fragments are Thread of Ascent to reload our weapon via our grapple. Thread of Fury to get melee energy back. This is super important. Have that one on when you destroy a tangle. Right? Woven Mail creates a tangle, and then picking up above a power grants Woven Mail. So you've got Woven Mail for the damage resistance when you're up close. You're going to be up close and personal with this build. So obviously you're going to want 1-2 punch shotguns and stuff like that. Obviously I've got loads of them in my vault. I just haven't got time to equip that on me now. All right, but you would run a 1-2 punch shotgun. Generally, it's the Eye Coloss shotgun that you would run, which is craftable, by the way. So you'd run 1-2. I mean, this isn't 1-2 punch. I know it isn't, but imagine it was the IK loss. I've got it in my vault. I just can't be bothered to go and get that right now. But you run 1-2 punch here, then navigate, and then depending on what you do, maybe even eager edge for like your speedrun strats. But if you're not speedrun, then just a good heavy GL maybe, or a rocket, or it just depends what you're doing. The build is going to be the same. We will double outreach just to protect melee energy as much as possible. We've got heavy handed on because we're going to get orb kills via melees. Melee kickstart, if you really want, you can run it. Siphon mods, etc., etc. Right? Just the same theme as what I've been saying. So I think that's self-explanatory. Let's go to the next Strand build. I want to move on with the video a bit. So this build is more my thing. All right, the last build I just showed you with the navigator, it isn't really my thing as much. I'm sure you know that, but this is more my thing. It's weird, Abient leap. Right, so improved Drenger's Lash, gain woven mail whilst suspending targets. Now they have nerfed the suspend builds, but this is still sort of it's almost giving you a taste of what suspend builds used to be like, and suspend is still good, and I'm going to tell you why it is. But let me first tell you the build. Rally Barricade, Shackle Grenade, Drenger's Lash because of Abient Leap, and Banner of War must go on, of course. Fragments, Thread of Binding because it's plus 10 resilience, and it's actually quite nice with the super, right? Thread of Mind for class ability energy when we suspend, which isn't as good as what it used to be, but you still put it on. Thread of Warding for Woven Mail, and Thread of Transmutation for Tangles, right, via our Woven Mail. So this is also really good. So, with that said, the reason why Shackle Grenade is good, so basically, we're going to be able to suspend targets via our class ability, because it's going to send out that wave of Strand stuff that shackles champs. Now, you saw recently I'd done a solo GM with Strand Titan in this sort of manner. I didn't use Abient Leap, though, but I have used it in the past. And basically, it's a loop of infinite suspends, almost, right? Especially with the Shackle Grenade. So you want to have Bolson detonations, double bomber to help you keep getting between your shackle and your Drenger's Lash, and you keep going between the two for infinite suspends. This is crazy good. It's still good. It's just not as good as what it used to be. I just ask you to have a go with it during this week of Onslaught, because shackling enemies is going to be important when you are doing area of control. All right. It's also decent with the bow Wishkeeper. Wishkeeper I'm not that huge fan of, but we may as well have that on. This will help Abient Leap shackle even more stuff. So you're infinitely suspending enemies with this build. I recommend that you give it a go as opposed to using always Symphoceps. It's just something a little bit different, and it is effective. It's just not as effective as it used to be. Make sure you got good stat distribution as well. Always focus that. So I feel as though that's also explanatory. We'll go to the next build. So now this is where people are going to get really excited because it's Stasis Behemoth. Stasis Behemoth is good, but you need to be good with the class to make it good, if that makes sense. So the first build is Hoarfrost C. I'm making this because I'm sort of subduing to what you're going to ask of me, because if I don't make a Hoarfrost C build, you're going to ask for it, and I know you are. Yes, you can use it in Endgame, but my personal preference, if I'm being honest, would be to use Symphoceps with this, because Symphoceps is just that nice of using it with the super. However, the neutral gameplay of Hoarfrost C is good, and I'm going to go over it now. So, we want Glacier Grenade. Stasis Titans are best with Glacier Grenades, okay? Just because of what you can do with them, of doing the shatter damage. It's all about shattering frozen targets. That's what a Stasis Titan is about. So we've got Tectonic Harvest and Cryoclasm. Cryoclasm's good because you can slide into all your Glacier Grenades, and when you're in your Behemoth Super, you can also do it, just increasing the shatter damage so much. I think this is I like this. All right, Tectonic Harvest is good to get Stasis Crystals to create a Stasis Shard. If you combine that with, I should have put this on, right? Just pretend that I put it on now. Elemental Charge, you keep getting Elemental Charges for free via breaking your Glacier Grenades. This is insanely good. All right, don't try to proc Whisper of Rhyme stuff. That build got nerfed, but it's still nice getting stasis shards like this. Because I've just told you, you can get elemental charge, which therefore gives you surges, which is always a good thing. So you can get surges for free on this build. Also, this isn't meant to be on, so don't worry about the weapons because I forgot to change weapons on this build. You can obviously use this with stasis weapons, the stasis bow that I've mentioned. I'm going to get the name of it because it's annoying me that I can't remember the name of the stasis bow. Let's see now. There we go. Vergless Curve. Vergless Curve is a good addition to this build. I recommend that you try that out. Depending on what you're up against and what champions you're up against, obviously all that stuff's going to change depending. So going back to what we were saying, so fragments, Whisper of Fishes, Whisper of Chains, Torment, Shards. Shards is going to give you the grenade energy back, so you keep getting your Glacier Grenade really quickly. Torment's going to give you even more grenade energy, so that you keep getting your Glacier Grenade. And then Chains is going to help you stay alive in GM content so that you can do a Stasis Behemoth solo GM. There's actually a guy that does only exclusively Stasis solo GMs on Behemoth. If you watch that guy, he's ex multi, right? He shows you how to actually use Stasis Behemoth, right? Step by step. But you've got to watch his entire video. There's no commentary on there, but he shows you how good it is. And Stasis Behemoth is good. I recommend Chains for players for the resistance that you get near frozen targets. Fissures is going to increase the burst of the Stasis and destroy, which is really good. That's what it's all about in the Stasis Titan. So the regular stuff, double bomber, Bolson detonation, etc., etc. So that's your Hoarfrost Sea build. Now to finally go to the final Stasis Titan build I'm going to show you, which this build has its pros and cons, but I know that people are going to ask for this, so I'm making the build, the build to show you. So this is with Stronghold Titan. Bonus to garden with swords, like I said. So this is going to grant you restoration whilst on a Stasis Behemoth, which is really good. To note as well, if you want to use the Void Sidearm with Devour on a Stasis Behemoth, it's actually really good, which I recently got the catalyst for it, but I cannot tell you the name of that sidearm either. Berry Bloodline. Berry Bloodline on a Stasis Behemoth is really good. Seriously, try it out. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying. So this is going to focus obviously on swords and staying alive. So Whisper of Chains, everything's the same as the previous build that I just said. Whisper of Chains is going to help you stay alive when you sword enemies with the Glacier Grenade. This build, it is still good, but it's difficult to pull off in a solo GM environment. But you can do it. It just depends on what you're doing. Like in a light blade solo GM, this is decent. All right. In dungeon content, it's fantastic. In raid content, it's fantastic. It just depends what you're up against. But if you want to use like a sword with lament, if you want to use lament and strongholds together, this is really good. Notice the stat distribution, triple 100. This is actually really good. Obviously, things like chill clip on a fusion helps out with this sort of build. But you can see, as I say, the same basis of mods that I've been mentioning to you, you can run Loosen Blade. If you run Loosen Blade, though, you lose a resistance. I don't recommend that you use Loosen Blades in Grandmasters. However, in dungeons, you can sometimes get away with using one or two Loosen Blades. It all depends on what you're doing. I don't recommend it that much, though, and I don't think Lament needs it, to be honest, because you get so much recharge rate with Lament. Anyways, with other swords, it might be different. It just depends. But resistance is something that you should be putting on, really, because this might cause a death. And if you're dead, you can't DPS. It's as simple as that. So staying alive is very important on a class like this. The super, by the way, obviously does massive damage. It does funky damage, especially with an artifact mod this season called Hail the Storm, which is fantastic. So that's all the builds I can cover on the Titan. I will do a Hunter video as well at some point. I won't have time today because the servers are going off. So, but that was the builds for endgame content for Solar Titans. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.